ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you to another Kirby on Sports exclusively on the Kirby on Sports podcast YouTube page. First and foremost, we would love to thank our sponsors here on the Kirby on Sports podcast: PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, and Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. I mean, these exclusive interviews have sort of been taking a hiatus because a lot of stuff has been happening over on my side. But to bring it back, I had to find a high profile, a very, very well-known person in the DC area. And one person who will forever leave his mark in the DC area. And the one man with his own experience, none other than the Travis Thomas experience. Travis. Yes. What's up, buddy?
I didn't know if you were talking about a sponsor or me. I was like, wait, leaves his mark in the area, is an experience. Oh, he's talking about me. Thank you, bro. It's an honor to be here with you. You know I'm a big fan, man. I'm glad we could finally link up.
Yeah, I'm glad. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And I was sort of nervous when scheduling you, because I hear on the radio, because you announced you had to leave, and I was like, oh shoot, I wonder what this means. Am I still gonna get the Travis Thomas experience? Obviously, let's just start there. You announced a couple weeks ago on the radio, your slot on the Travis Thomas experience, the Team 980, that you got an opportunity presented to you, and you would be eventually leaving DC, a place where you have stayed and covered for pretty much your entire career. And then a couple shows ago, you have your last show. Obviously, I watched it. I could tell, Travis, how genuine, how emotional you got after signing off for one last time, and the shipping off up to Boston song as well. That was the good kick. But I mean, just walk us through your emotion, what that day was like, your last time on air in DC, because I know the amount you have done in terms of DC sports media. This wasn't taken lightly, this last show. What was that like, that whole day?
Impossible. I'll be honest, I still don't know how I was able to finish the show and get through it. I cried. I mean, listen, you know, I'm a betting guy. If you took bets on how many times I was going to cry, and you bet the over, you hit that bet, because I was a mess. And I don't know what the hell I channeled professionally as a broadcaster to get through it, because it felt like I was saying goodbye to an old friend, you know. And it's not like, you know, I'm from here, my family's here, I'll be back to visit, I'll be at some of these games, I'm still going to be around, but I don't know, it just felt like a chapter in my life was closing, and I knew it, and I could see it, and I had to talk about it. And it was, I guess in a way, I've always been so open and honest and transparent, as you mentioned, as a broadcaster in my presentation on my show. I think that's why I connected with people so much, is because I was so honest and so open, and I talked about my personal life and my kids and my wife and stuff like that. In a way, this was like one of those things where it's like, damn, like I have to share exactly what I'm feeling at this very moment with my people. I can't hold back now that I'm leaving. So I gave them everything I had every day. And it was the same way with that last show. I just wanted it to be memorable and legendary. And I think we achieved that.
Yeah, once again, it was a really great show to wrap up a very great career for you in terms of DC sports. I know some stuff we can't discuss at this current moment, but what can you tell us about your next steps?
You know, I'm basically going to the New England market now on the television side. I'm blessed in that in DC, I've done radio, TV, podcasts. I've kind of done it all. And I think that's one of the things that, attracted them to me, which was this guy's versatile. He's high energy. He can do everything. To use a baseball term, on opening day, I'm a five-tool player, right? And so I think they kind of saw we can put him anywhere, in the television side, and he can do it. So I'm covering all the local teams in the New England region, as well as sports gambling on the television side. And I'll announce, all the details, where people can watch me, what network, all that stuff very soon.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I mean, DC sports going up to Boston. As somebody who's been around, somebody who's listened to your show, I'll be sure to support you along the way, listening and so on and so forth. So I can't wait for that, and I'm very happy for this opportunity for you, my friend.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. You've always been super supportive of me from day one. I don't want that to stop. Anytime you want me on the show, I got you. At some point, you're gonna have to talk New England sports anyway. I mean, all those teams always win. So at some point, you're gonna want to talk to me and get some insight on what's going on up there. Maybe I can smuggle something back down here and pour it in the water of our teams.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I sort of want to go back to the start. Travis, first and foremost, what was it like for you when you like decided this was the path you wanted to take in terms of covering sports? Because I know everybody's journey is very different, and it's usually very interesting how somebody in sports media gets started.
Well, mine was from arrogance. I thought I was going to the NBA, and I used to tell my mom, who's no longer with us, I used to tell my mom I was going to make it to the NBA. I'm going to buy you a house and a Jaguar and all this stuff. And probably around 12, 13, I kind of realized that's not going to happen. I'm not good enough. I'm not athletic enough. I'm not as tall as I thought. There's other guys taller than me who can jump higher and run faster. And I was a hard worker too. I kind of, like the light bulb went off. And, I started thinking about careers within sports, because it's all I've ever known. It's all I've ever been passionate about. And I never felt like I was patient enough to be a coach. Your great coaches are very patient and great teachers. I'm an impatient person. So I was like, okay, I can't coach. I don't have the temperament. What can I do? Well, I'm not shy. I've never been shy. I was always good at standing in front of the class, and when you had to give a presentation or something, I was never really nervous with that. I was cool with that. Always been good with people. So I thought, I bet I could talk into a microphone or a camera, and it's probably the same thing as like standing in front of a group of people. It might be easier. And so that's really what did it. At the time too, Stuart Scott was, the man. And so I think that coupled with my personality and then seeing him made it possible, if that makes sense. And so I just was like, you know what? I want to go to college. My parents were already hounding me. Like, you got to go to college. Figure out what you want to do. I was like, I don't know. I don't even know if I want to go to college. And so it was like around that, like 12, 13-year-old, all this stuff just hit me. And it was like, okay, Stuart Scott, I'm not shy. I could be a broadcaster. I could go to college for that. And I started like kind of looking into that at schools that, had that. So in a lot of ways, I chose broadcasting, but I also think I was made to do what I'm doing,
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I saw here you went to Towson to get your degree, and then you started off in Baltimore before moving down to DC. I want to know when the actual experience of Travis Thomas started. Was that radio? Was that TV? How did that come about? And what sparked your mind? Like, I want the Travis Thomas experience.
It was a culmination of things. I've always been a Jimi Hendrix fan. Growing up, my parents would listen to like Hendrix, Marley, James Brown, a lot of soul in my house, like classic soul music, Al Green. So I was already like, I think I had Jimi Hendrix music like running through my veins. And so that was a Jimi Hendrix experience. So I always admired that name. And then when I was doing radio in Baltimore, some pothead called my show. And I swear, don't make me laugh. I'm gonna reenact it. He went like this. He was like, hey man, I forget his name. He was like, my name's so-and-so. He was like, listen, dude, I don't even like sports, man. I'm baked right now and I'm so hungry, man. So I'm gonna go get some Funyuns. But I just wanted to call and tell you that you don't have a show, man. This shouldn't be called the Travis Thomas Show. This is the Travis Thomas experience, man, because it's far out. And he hung up. And I was like, oh my God. I laughed so hard, but it kind of stuck. It was like, not only do I want some Funyuns now, but I like that Travis Thomas experience. He was like, it's not a show, man. You're not a show. I don't even like sports. I've been listening to you for like an hour. This is an experience. Cause you know me, I've always been nuts. So who even knows what I was talking about that made that guy get baked and call me. But I'm glad that he did because, it was like, damn, Jimi Hendrix experience, Travis Thomas. So it's also like a ode to Jimi Hendrix too, so it just works. And I took it and ran with it. And the rest is kind of history. I built a little brand for myself.
Oh yeah. So the experience, what do you think set the Travis Thomas experience apart from other radio shows? Like what made your show so unique in your mind?
I think that I didn't think about other radio shows, to be honest. And that's not any disrespect to anyone else. But I think if I was listening to other shows and then comparing mine, it probably wouldn't have sounded the way it sounded. I just focused on being the best team I could be. And that's pun intended, Team 980. I had great management around me. I had great coworkers around me. I had the best producer on planet Earth and Anthony Haney. And I think ultimately I wanted high energy, great music, a lot of topics, a lot of calls. I wanted interacting. I didn't want to talk at people. I wanted to talk with people. And I didn't want to argue with people. It's sports. You're supposed to disagree. It's fine. It's cool. We can all watch a game and see something different. To me, that's awesome. It's not like I would watch a game and the only way that I saw it is the right way. That's BS. I want to hear different perspectives. And I think I was able to create that. And so, I don't really know what separated me from other shows because I wasn't paying attention to them. I was in my lane and focused on what I wanted creatively. I spent a lot of my career behind the scenes, man. I spent a decade at the beginning of my career behind the scenes. And so I know how to build shows. I know how to take a creative vision and execute it and turn it into something tangible. And so that's all I wanted to do. I didn't care about what anyone else was doing, respectfully. I respect them. They're my peers, but I didn't care. I wanted my show to hit. And that's all I focused on.
No. So going back, because I know this seems like it's been forever, and slowly but surely we're getting out of this mess called COVID-19. But when the pandemic first hit, I assume you were in the same boat as other radio people doing the show from home. Sort of just quickly touch on that for me, Travis. What was that like when COVID hit and you sort of had to adjust to staying more at home and doing your show? What was the difference like that? Did you find that easier or harder for you to do?
Well, my situation was more extreme than that. What happened with me before COVID, I was on television. I did a podcast with Santana Moss, and I was doing weekends on 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980.
Oh.
And so when COVID hit and sports shut down, I was laid off from TV. The Santana show got suspended until we could figure out what the hell was going on with the world. And then radio people, your full-time people were doing it from home. Part-timers like me were SOL. It was like, hey man, sports are shut down. We don't need you. We'll call you if the world ever comes back, you know? So here I was like during the lockdowns, unemployed, period. Like I went from 3 hustles to nothing, and all overnight, like the rest of us had, you know, our lives flipped upside down, right? And so I didn't I didn't do anything from home. In fact, my wife is an essential worker, so she just kept, you know, grinding. But daycares are shut down, schools are shut down. So I became Miss Doubtfire. I became like Mr. Mom. I was taking care of 2 babies at the time. I mean, my kids are a little older now. They're 5 and 3, but you do the math 2 years ago, you know, you're talking about a 3 and a 1-year-old, man. So it was like, it was very difficult for me to go from like the super workaholic grind guy to I'm just a full-time dad. Like I'm teaching, I'm doing like home teaching because schools are down. I'm making lunches. I'm changing diapers. Like it was a mind F. And so as things slowly started to come back, I was presented the opportunity to do the Team 980. And I actually volunteered to come in. I did not want to do the show from home ever. I was like, get me the hell out of here. I will, I will come to work every day. If I have to wear a goddamn hazmat suit, I will. But like, I need to get to that studio. So the studio for me, man, became like, God, it became like a oasis, bro. It really did. I mean, not to get all deep on you, but it was like, it was therapeutic for me to leave my house, because all of us wanted to get the hell out of our houses,
Yeah.
and go to work in a studio and do my dream. I've never turned back. I mean, that's why you hear that in my show. You can hear passion and energy, and it sounds like I'm having fun because I am.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. And like you said before the pandemic started, you were doing weekends on both 106.7 and the Team 980. What is that like? Because if I remember correctly, both 980 and 106.7 is in the same building.
Well, not they are now. At that time, this was before the acquisition. So
Oh,
at
oh,
that time, they were competitors. And so for me, it was a little strange because the fan. So I was on the fan in Baltimore, okay, and then when I came to DC and I was doing television, I was doing when I first came to DC doing TV behind the scenes. I was still driving to Baltimore and doing my shows on the weekends. And eventually, I talked to my boss there, Dave Labrosi, who's now retired, and I just say, "Listen, man, I love you. I love Baltimore, but this is killing me, like the back and forth. Could you make a call or something to the fan in DC? Is it possible for me to just do my show there?" And he did. He made it happen, and he linked me up with you know, obviously my who became my boss, CK, and the rest is history. So when I started doing the fan on weekends, Team 980 was competitors, and my loyalty was to the fan brand because I did it in Baltimore and DC. But I'm a freelancer. So, you know, like TV was my full-time job. So radio was part-time. So guess what? If the fan, if they don't have a shift for me to do a show that weekend, and the Team 980 calls me and they're like, hey, we could use you Saturday or whatever it is, I gotta go make that money. And so it was a little strange for me. And there wasn't, to my knowledge, I don't know if anyone was doing that. I think I was the only guy on weekends that was doing both. And but it gave me a great advantage once the acquisition happened, and as you said, now they're in the same building, now they're on the same team. um, it gave me a great advantage because I understood both. I knew the difference between both. I knew how both stations operated. I knew the fan base of each, and it just made me a better all around broadcaster.
Absolutely. That's very interesting and good insight there. You were talking about how uh you were hustling on that grind, making that money from radio to TV to behind the scenes. Um what was your favorite to do? Did you have like one favorite in particular? Because I know in DC you did some stuff on NBC Sports Washington, including one of my favorite shows back in the day, The Wizards Outsiders.
I love that, man. That's great. I get a kick out of. I'm gonna answer you, but I just want to say, for me, it's such a trip because I have no idea where people consume what I do. Um,
Mhm.
I meet people that were die or are diehard fans of Santana Moss. So some people I meet are like, dude, I had no idea who you were until I saw you on the podcast with him. Then people, I get a lot of what you just said. People loved the Wizards Outsiders show, kind of had like a really strong following, and I didn't know it. We had decent ratings, but it wasn't until like meeting people they were like, dude, I love Wizards Outsiders. And then a lot of people knew me from doing radio on the weekends. So it's a unique, it's always like a trip for me to hear someone say, I loved you on, because sometimes that answer, that blank changes. For me, it's like asking me my favorite kid. I mean, I love them all. I'm just I give my heart to this stuff, bro. So, and a lot of times I'm behind the scenes helping mold whatever show it is that I'm on. Not in a diva way, just in a creative, like, hey, I have something to offer, you know? And most producers are collaborative people by nature. And because I've worked in this market for so long, they know they know my background. And so they respect that. So they're like, yeah, let's get in the lab and work something out. So a lot of those shows, man, are near and dear to my heart. I guess I would have to probably say this last run, Team 980, having my own show for a year was something that I just never even thought would happen. You know, I've been a co-host, I've been a host, I've been an analyst, I've never had my own thing. And so to have a show called the Travis Thomas Experience, to have somebody who took their time out and made a theme song for me, to have all the callers that I had. I mean, that was an incredible opportunity, and I'll be forever grateful for it.
So you're the first person I will be asking this one to. Recently, maybe a year ago, I want to say, when sports betting hit Virginia legally, that's when stuff started to explode. And the BetQL, it seems like they were just grabbing up all the DC radio and TV personalities and getting them on talking about betting. I mean, first and foremost, that studio, I've seen behind the scenes of that studio with all those TVs and lines and everything, and that
Yeah.
setup with the microphones. I mean, was that sort of a transition with sports betting becoming legal? Like how did you like get the knowledge to know like, oh, okay, I'm gonna tell the people you should do such and such on this game. Like, because I have no clue about betting still too. And it seemed all new to me when it became legal in Virginia and DC. So what was that like doing BetQL part-time?
Well, first of all, BetQL's kick ass. And I'm very grateful to them too, to Matt Volk and that whole team over there. Those guys identified me pretty early on as someone that they wanted to work with. And so I'm very grateful for them. And everything you said is true about that studio. Everything they do is above board and kick ass. And that was tough for me to leave them too, because I was just starting to feel like I was growing within their brand. But you know, to answer your question of my history, I have been betting on sports since 2005. Quick, I'll give this to you really quick because it's really a long story. But I have a friend of mine who was addicted to online poker. And so he would just play like online poker all the time. And we would go to Atlantic City. This was when I was at Towson. We would go to Atlantic City every other weekend together. And he would just be at the poker table all night at these casinos. And I love gambling, but I don't play poker and like blackjack and craps. I just don't play table games. I can't even explain why. It's like boring to me. So what I would do, I would sit at the bar and I would drink and I would watch games that were on the TVs. And I would end up being, as the night went on, surrounded by, I didn't know it then, but I'd be surrounded by bookies. And they would be talking about people that made this bet with them. And what was this guy thinking, taking the Celtics on the money line. And they were saying all this stuff to me that at the time was like foreign. And I was just drinking and like, I'm a people person. So I'm just drinking kind of whatever. But like over time, because we went there every other weekend for like 2 years straight, no kidding. My guy was all in. And so I eventually became friends with these guys and like learned about sports betting and all these terms. What is a parlay? What is a money line? What is a spread? What is this? What is that? And they would teach me. So I actually learned how to gamble from the pros, kind of, even though they were bookies and like, there's that negative connotation, as it should be, but they're still pros. And so I'm like learning how to bet from them. And it gave me an advantage over time. And so I was betting like a lot of people in my world that bet, I was betting illegally forever. And now that it's legal and I'm a broadcaster, it's the perfect marriage. It's like bringing two things that I love together. I've always been a sports broadcaster and I've been betting on sports since 2005. So, I have a long time in this game and now I can do them both, forever and ever. Amen. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean that BetQL setup, it was like correct me if I'm wrong here. It was basically you were just watching a full game or something because I know I forget who it was, but one guy like exploded because his bet hit off some crazy scenario. I was like, man, this show looks very, very interesting.
Yeah, if you're like me and you have a pretty bad attention span, it was heaven because it was a bunch of games. There's a bunch of monitors in there. And so it was almost like if you ever watch a Red Zone on the NFL network, it was kind of like that for betting. It was like we would bet on 4 or 5 games and we'd have them all on and we would talk about the bets we have and advise people on how to bet and talk about sports and have a lot of fun. It was great. And it was, listen, dude, that show you're talking about was every Sunday from noon to 4 p.m. Now, if you're talking to your average Joe and you're like you have to talk about sports betting for 4 hours, you would just be like, what? How do you even do that? But when you're in it and you're the host like I was, it flies by because all these games are in progress and you're looking at this game and then that game, and then we're reacting, and then we're arguing, and then we're betting on the next game. And you look up and before you know it, 4 hours feels like 20 minutes. It was a dream come true for me. I'm looking forward to doing more betting up north as well.
That's awesome, my friend. So before we wrap things up, I kind of like to take the last part of this exclusive to talk about some sports around the area. Your main focus, obviously, DC sports. As we're recording this, opening day for the Washington Nationals, Baltimore Orioles. I'm not sure if they're playing today or if they got rained out, but the Nats did get delayed. Obviously, the Nats sold farm pretty much last season. They're rebuilding, I would think, but still, they have a lot of young talent. They have Juan Soto, which I believe they should lock up long term, and a lot of other pieces along with the farm system that the Nats are stating that they're going to grow and build and become successful. What's your analysis of what you think the national season will be like this year? And I know you were from Baltimore. Yeah, how can Baltimore get any better?
Dude, my first job was I worked in PR for the Orioles, and I was at
Oh
every
wow.
home game for 2 seasons, and it's painful. It hurts my heart, honestly. It's like heartbreaking to see how bad they are right now. They weren't great when I was there, but oh my God, this is embarrassing. So I don't. I have nothing. I have nothing for them. They disgust me. I have a really good friend on the team. Trey Mancini is a friend of mine. I love him dearly, and I am not gonna tell you private conversations I have with Trey, but let's just say I have said to him, "You need to get the hell out of there." And I love him, and I love that organization, and I'm telling him to get out of
Well,
there.
his story, the Trey's
Oh,
story there, incredible.
yeah. The only thing more incredible than his story is Trey himself. He is one of the nicest, most humble people I've ever met. And and that's not just from an athlete. That's a person. Like the most humble, nice guy I've ever met as a person. Forget that he's a pro athlete and can hit a baseball over the mountains, right? So I love him dearly, but he's got to get out of there. So screw them. Let's talk about the Nats. It's going to be a long season. They're not going to be as bad as the O's, but this is, it's a rebuild, man. You're evaluating a Josiah Gray and others like that. It is what it is. And if I'm Juan Soto, I don't think I stay. They tried to make him a fair offer, but if you're the Nationals, you don't make a fair offer to Juan Soto. You have to overpay from the beginning to get him to stay. Why would he? Why, all of his friends are gone. Why the hell would he stay? You have to almost break the bank. What they offered him was like a fair market value, right? But he's he's not signing that. You have to offer that guy 400, 450, 500 million. I mean, you have to set records with what you offer for him to take that. Why would he take a fair market deal when you're rebuilding? What the hell for? He could go to Boston. He could go to the Yankees. He could go to the Dodgers. He could go to a number of places and win right now. Why would he take that? So, I just think it's going to be a tough year. Plus, you look at the division. I mean, all these teams in this division are viable. We obviously know about the Braves. We obviously know the Mets are always hyped up, but the Marlins aren't terrible anymore. I mean, every team in this division is viable. And so it's going to be tough sledding for Nats fans. You're going to games looking at the future and hoping like hell that you can keep Juan Soto in a Nats uniform for many, many years to come.
I gotta ask you, how'd you like those cherry blossom uniforms?
They're okay. I like years past better. These felt kind of safe to me a little bit, but both from the Nats and the Wizards, obviously. But I understood it. Every year we do this, and it's a big deal. I've never made it that big of a deal.
Yeah.
There's been years that I liked more than this. This year just kind of was like boring to me. But because it was boring, it wasn't terrible either. It was just safe. That's how I would
Yeah.
describe it. It was safe.
Yeah. I understand that. The Washington Wizards, obviously eliminated from playoff contention. They go off to that hot start at the very beginning of the season, and the whole fan base is hyped up because it's like the Wizards are looking very good, and then it slowly and surely just slopes downhill.
Yeah.
What is that piece the Wizards need to get over the hump and back into the playoffs? What do you think?
I think a rebuild, but I don't think that's going to happen. I thought this team should have traded Bradley Beal a year ago when his stock was much higher and they could have got back a bigger haul. I thought it was a mistake. I still think it's a mistake. I think they're going to give him what he wants. They're going to pay him. And look, there's a lot of guys in sports that ain't worth the money. So, it's not a knock on Brad. I mean, he's going to get his money, and that's good. but I think the organization's making a mistake. And if you trade him now, you're not going to get as much back. So it's kind of too late. They're probably trapped in a sense. So I think he'll get his money, and they'll hope that Porzingis, who has played well, can stay healthy. They'll hope that Kuzma, who has played well, can stay healthy and can continue to develop. Rui, same thing. They'll keep drafting kids, and I think they're going to go out and try to get another free agent or trade. It didn't work with Dinwiddie, obviously, but they're going to keep trying. If I had to answer your question, because again, I think gut the whole thing and start over. But your question was, what's the piece that they're missing? God, I think they need a point guard, man, a dynamic point guard who can distribute and score. A prime John Wall would have been great right about now. And it's just not the way life works, unfortunately.
Moving on to the Washington Commanders, I have to ask you first and foremost, how do you like the new name? And second off, the big question, their acquisition of Carson Wentz. Do you like the move? Do you dislike the move? What are your thoughts with this team moving into the draft and so on?
Both answers are the same, ironically. I hated Commanders at first. I thought they dropped the ball as an organization. It, to me, as someone who was taking calls from the fans every day, all day, it seemed like Red Wolves, for the most part, was a majority vote. There were some people who were like, oh, Red Wolves sucks. But it seemed like majority of people kind of rallied behind that. I thought they dropped the ball not going that route. And then giving us some BS. Oh, there was a legal issue. What about this team tells you that they, right? Do I even need to go there? So I thought they dropped the ball, but eventually Commanders just, it is what it is, and I accepted it. Same thing with Carson Wentz. When they traded for Wentz, I went crazy on air. What are we doing? This is a mistake. You gave up what? You're paying what? Oh my God. I still don't love the compensation. I think he's overpaid. I think they could have had the Colts take a little bit more of that on. But I get it. They tried to get Russell Wilson. It didn't work. Aaron Rodgers wouldn't even entertain coming here. Wentz was like in that next group. When you talk about Jimmy G and some of these other, Mitch Trubisky, some of these other guys who were available, Carson Wentz was in there. So I get it. I do. Now I want to see if Wentz can learn from some of the mistakes he's made and if he can stay healthy. If he can do that, maybe it was a good move.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing what the Commanders pick up in the draft with the acquisition of Carson Wentz, because it seemed like for the longest time they're going to get through the draft. And now at this point, it doesn't seem viable for them to draft a quarterback, but it is Washington. We could see that.
I don't think so. I think, well, you're right. Crazier things happen. My gut says he'll take one late, day 2. A Desmond Ritter, if he drops to the second round, I could see maybe. But I got to tell you, man, I think they're going wide receiver, and I don't know which one. Obviously you could go anywhere from Drake London to any of those Ohio State kids to Treylon Burks to, I mean, we know the names. But my gut says they're going to go receiver to give Wentz another weapon, to give Terry somebody, another body alongside him, because we still don't know if Curtis Samuel can do it or not. Can he stay healthy? We don't know. We haven't seen it. Logan Thomas is back, but can he stay? So I think they're going to get another weapon in the fold at receiver. And my thing is, what they won't tell us, I think they're going to take a first-round receiver as a insurance policy for if this Terry McLaurin contract thing goes south. My gut with that is that they'll end up franchising him. So we'll have him this year and one more season, and then I think he's going to walk. I really do.
Wow. Yeah, I could potentially see that happening due to the fact that this is Washington's front office
Right.
making the decisions and paying people and so on and so forth. And well,
Exactly.
we know how that has gone in the past. So it's just we're just gonna have to wait and see there. Travis, we were talking off air about the Washington Capitals and if you think they can make a cup run. And I straight up said, I mean, for me, I think they can make it to the playoffs. I don't think they can make it to the Stanley Cup. I think there are too many other hot teams in the league. And I think the
Yep.
Caps are at the point where they have too many older guys
Yeah.
and not enough mix, not enough
Yep.
younger speed in the lines there.
Right.
Yeah, what is your take on the Cap season? Because so far I've been to 2 games this season. I mean, it's been up, and when I've gone, they've looked terrible.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I mean, you nailed it. I think it's an old team. They look old when they play. They just had a big win against Tampa. I was impressed with because it felt like Tampa was going to come back and win that game, and they were able to hold them off. That's a big win. Tampa's a team. I mean, we know what the hell they're about. I would say Tampa. I like Florida. I like what the Panthers are doing. The Bruins, you always have to pay attention to. Carolina. I mean, there's a ton of great teams. They usually choke, but Toronto's too talented to not put in that group. There's a ton of really great teams in the East. And I just think the Caps are not really one of them. You know, they would have to get hot in goal for them to go on a Stanley Cup run. To me, just my opinion, I think now what everyone's going to focus on from fans to media, and they should, is going to be Ovi passing Gretzky because that's coming. And unfortunately, you know, I don't think Ovi's going to get any more Stanley Cups. So I think his legacy will be, yes, he got a cup. He's not Crosby. He doesn't have multiples, but he passed Gretzky. And boy, when you start talking about all time, that's not a bad resume, my friend.
Absolutely. Once again, here on the Kirby on Sports podcast YouTube page, another exclusive here with the Travis Thomas experience. You can follow him on Twitter at Travis Thomas EXP because he's a legend and you just need to follow him. Once again, our sponsors, we can't thank them enough. PM Plus Reserve, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. Travis, I must say this was a blast interviewing you, connecting with you. I'm grateful for our connection together, my friend. And as you make the trip up to Boston to start another chapter in your career on behalf of me and the Kirby on Sports podcast, I just want to wish you all the best, my friend. And it's been an honor interviewing you today. And I just can't wait to see what is to come for you, my friend, up in Boston.
Well, I think you know what's coming, man. I'm gonna go high energy, high octane as always, a lot of passion. And I think that's gonna resonate up there. You know, those fans are crazy about their team. So I think it's gonna be a good mix for sure. And I'm looking forward to it. And look, don't be a stranger, you know, let's keep in touch. And anytime you ever want me back, it's already done, my friend. All you gotta do is ask and I'm there.
Man, it's all about the connections in this business, and I'm thankful for this one for sure. And once again, follow the Travis Thomas experience on Twitter at Travis Thomas EXP. Can't wait to see what you do, brother. But that is all the time we have here on the Kirby on Sports podcast YouTube page, another Kirby on Sports exclusive, and you can find everything Kirby on Sports related at www.kirbyonsports.com. Till the next time you see us, always remember to create greatness. So long and peace out.